Greetings, dear ones. Greetings, dear ones. Happy Independence Day in the United States. We're celebrating our independence from being controlled and unfairly treated by a king and unrepresented in what was the then form of government. And for those of you here in the United States, I know many are reeling from the decisions made yesterday regarding a piece of legislation that is going to have wide and far-reaching effects. Some are mourning, literally mourning the loss of our democratic system, because some of those changes are going to not only affect our health and our well-being and our air and water and food and access to knowledge, access to information, whether it's satellite information for weather or health information of what is currently running around as far as viruses, etc. in your area. There is going to be a great deal of repercussion that I think people are not even beginning to see as yet. Some do see partially, and yet at the same time, what may feel like loss of so much, including our freedom and our ability to act and practice the religious beliefs that we want, the freedoms that we're used to as far as speech and writing, etc. It is all in line, exactly in line, and exactly perfectly timed for the evolution of our planet and of our species particularly. And many people speak about this, but when we're talking about evolution, we're not just talking about modification, we're not talking about adjustments socially or just culturally or mentally. This is an evolution of the species all the way down to the deepest levels of us. Our DNA will be changed, but in order for that to occur, the deepest aspects of our human nature need to be transmuted and transfigured and even metamorphosized or transmogrified, which are all levels to which one can literally become different, and in this case that we can literally change our reality. And many people are teaching and speaking about this, and it's wonderful. And I just wanted to invite you to explore this weekend, taking this time of a holiday weekend. And many people are having events and celebrating and being with family and friends and in community, and that's absolutely vital. But I would also invite you to take the time to do a personal inventory and even some personal work and personal processing. And I'm going to post here on Facebook and Instagram and anywhere else. And if you're on my newsletter list, you will get it. This was a modification of the actual Declaration of Independence, and each of those points have been modified. I did this many years ago, modified to view from a personal perspective in relation to childhood patterns. And it was fascinating to me at the time, the kind of coordination and the actual experiences that we go through as children. Now, there is nothing wrong with those experiences. In other words, from the perspective of this work, it is not something to get over. It is not something to become aware of, and then you can adjust your life, adjust yourself to be able to manage it. That is what's been happening in our nation and around the world. They are modifications, there have been modifications and adjustments that alleviate things here and there, but do not deeply change them. And so as a collective, we have decided that we need to go deeper. We need to do the radical, permanent material change, transmutation, that will actually evolve a species. Now, under normal circumstances, a planet, a collective of souls exploring a particular project or angle may take a couple hundred years for this to happen. I myself have been teaching for many, many years that I expected this to happen in a generation to maybe a generation and a half. Well, my estimate was completely wrong. We all decided to do this even more quickly. And it will happen within the next 5 to 8 years at the most. So, and I'm talking about complete difference. We have seen how quickly in the past few months things can change, complete reversal, 180 or even 360 degree reversal on so many different aspects of our country, our philosophy, our way of being, our freedoms, our way of living, health, etc., as I mentioned earlier. And that's the speed at which we are being called to, that we have called ourselves to change, to make these transmutation of old patterns. And for me and this work and my clients over all of these years, the process is a very accelerated process. Sessions are very long because we are attempting to relearn a language that has been pretty much shut down within us, a means of communication. We are learning about the defense system and how it has protected up until this point what it feels as a little child, and does not have any idea that you are a full-grown adult and can handle the intensity of emotions that were not possible for a child. Also learning who you are, and that's the bottom line and key to everything, is know thyself. For when you know yourself, you can have yourself, and when you have yourself, you have freedom, you have independence, you have sovereignty. And so that's really what I'm focusing on today, is this independence from misperceptions, mistaken beliefs, lies or distortions of truth that we learned as children in regard to who we are and how the world works in relation to us. And it is the same on a national scale and a global scale as well. We have believed throughout history that we are just accidents, or like as a species, that it was a random set of things that came together, facts and situations that came together that created man. And if you do any research into archaeology and other sciences, it's revealing that that's not necessarily so. And if you'd like more information, I refer you to Greg Braden, Greggbraden, as a beautiful and clear source for a different perspective of humanity being simply an accident or random set of circumstances. So when we're exploring self and we're able to go into those deeper places and the root of the root, then those misperceptions, mistaken beliefs, and distortions of the truth of who we are can be literally, physically, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually transmuted, so that we're not just trying to do something with our head. And again, there's many levels of change and transformation and beyond, as I said, transmutation, transfiguration, metamorphosis, and transmogrification. Those are all the levels to which we can explore within and know thyself, not just humanly, but on a multi-existential basis, which is directly connected to those patterns that we as a soul designed to explore. It was our soul's plan. There is nothing wrong with what's going on in the world. That's not to say that it is not damaging and going to cause pain, suffering, and death to so many people, land, animals, habitats, the balance of this earth, etc. In the meantime, however, it is designed. We designed it as a group of souls, not just human souls, but all of those beings on this planet, be it grass, be it the clouds, be it the frogs. Everything is in on this plan. Everything is in on this design. And when we move beyond this planet, then there are councils, there are groups that have representatives gather together, choose and make decisions about going forward with evolution or not, how we're going to do that, etc. And unlike, throughout history, we have had, like children, no power. We've had no leverage or no control over what was decisions that were being made and what was done to us. And we were entirely trapped. Throughout history, we were dependent upon someone who had weapons and power and equipment to be able to fight off the neighboring marauders or those that wanted to conquer more than their particular land. So we had no ability to be able to protect ourselves. Why the castles and the fortresses? We went into the castles and fortresses, and those that in power, the nobles, the whoever's, the generals, fought for us and kept us safe. And that's, again, very similar to what a child experiences. They have absolutely no power and no control over the decisions being made in their little lives, and they are entirely trapped there for many, many years. So there is a replication of the individual experience in the historic. And as a result of that lack of freedom and independence and sovereignty, we have come to believe ourselves as people to truly not have power and not have control over our governments and decision makers and religious leaders that decide how and when and where things are going to occur in our lives. But again, this is all the exploration that we have been doing for thousands of years. This is the last ditch effort by that pyramidal structure, where very few at the top own the power and control things and have the access to resources or the control of resources. It's over. And so this is our individual declaration of independence. And I'm going to go over a couple of those points to show you what I mean in the personal declaration that I'll post later. But the patterns that are showing up for us nationally and globally are the same patterns, the exact same dynamics within us, within our world. The individual is the key. And our individual work, our personal work, is what will change the outer and our reality and give us the power and the ability not only to choose and not only to act, be it to boycott a certain company because they do not they're not following what we feel is a philosophy of benefit to all. But moreover, our personal sovereignty and realization that we do have choice in our lives and in our country and on our planet. And this is seeing, a client this week who was feeling very, very out of control, very put upon by her soon-to-be ex-husband, in regard to the decisions about their child, and feeling like she did not have the security and the safety necessary to be able to feel comfortable in the situation. Excuse me. And as we were working, it was very apparent to her, it became very apparent to her, that she was still requiring of her soon-to-be ex the same things that she required and asked verbally and non-verbally from her parents that did not occur, and left her feeling very scared, very insecure, very powerless. And so this replication is also being felt on a national scale. She was saying, I can't even look at that, what's going on, because it triggers me so. And yes, it would, because it is the same dynamic of us wanting leaders and government representatives and whoever, religious, etc., to do the right thing, to treat us and respond to us in such a way that makes us safe, to be able to be free to do what we want, feel how we want, express ourselves the way we are called to. So this transpersonal is very intensified right now. And if something in the outer world is aggravating you, then I invite you to really kind of whittle it down to what is the core factor, not the actual actions or changes or legislation that's going on, but what is at the very core. People are feeling like they're not being heard, they're not being made safe, they are not being taken care of. And this is the same thing with my client. She wanted her ex to be and do what her little one inside expected and wanted righteously as a child. It is right that children should be cared for and made safe in innumerable ways. But as adults, when we go through this deep transformation and transmutation, we are able to do that for ourselves and are no longer seeking it outside, and have that independence from what even our society, our government, our religion is dictating for us. So this is not just a societal or a mental or a cultural transformation. This is really at the individual. We are individuating within our old patterns, historically and individually, so that we may be free. And it ultimately comes to being united within ourselves, being free to do, feel, say, act as we wish. And if those freedoms are not being protected or allowed to us, then it is up to us, not the other, to make those changes. We have to decide, and we have to create that freedom for ourselves. And that may be joining with others in doing so. It may be just how you live your life, and creating that protection, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and physical protection. And I don't mean by creating barriers. I mean by making sure that you are following the dictates of your true self. And the way to access the information from your true self is to transmute those misperceptions, mistaken beliefs, lies, and distortions of truth of who we are and how the world actually works in relation to us. So I'm going to give you an example of the Declaration of Independence that I wrote out, and again I'm going to post here for you to utilize it. Just in the first preamble, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So when we kind of frame that in a very personal way, it's written, when in the course of personal growth it becomes necessary to dissolve the behaviors, thought processes, and situations which have bound them to harmful conditions, and to assume self-empowerment and growth which the laws of nature, spiritual law, and the divine nature back of all entitle them, a decent respect to their individuation requires they should declare the core desires which impel them to separate from that which no longer serves. So that's just the preamble, and if you go through each section, you can really feel the wrongs that the king was enacting in regard to the colonies, and how that shows up in our own personal experience with our parents. So really take some time and go through this and do some reflecting and feeling, more than anything, how your own freedoms, how your own ability to self-express, how your expected, and these truths are self-evident, that we should be free, that we should be able to follow our essence and what we'd like to do in the world, and how we'd like to live, and how we'd like to worship. So you would go along. This does take a little bit of time and work, so do this exploration, set it aside, come back to it. But I really invite this opportunity, this point of change that we're in. This is a very radical, very, very radical moment of crossroads where we really get to decide, are we going to be victims of our own mistaken beliefs and misperceptions and distortions of truth of who we are? Or are we going to explore to whatever extent we can and transmute those misperceptions, mistaken beliefs, and lies, and come to live from and through our own personal truth, which allows for the world to actually be redesigned by our desires, by our realization of our power to change this reality. Physics, as I've mentioned many times before, is proving daily that we actually, consciousness is what's creating this reality, and consciousness, which includes, for me, consciousness is not just in the mind. That's what I've been saying. It has to be deep within us. And in those moments of transmutation comes in this sense of security and safety, because you know that you are going to guarantee that. You are going to make sure that that is true for you. And as a result, nothing from the outside can shake that. Nothing from the outside can change that. It is not about receiving it from others, or even your government, or even the divine figure. And when you have that sense of security and that sense of self, then it allows for a faith in the decision of the collective. Collective, and I mean collective souls, not just those represented as humans here on this planet. So we can have that faith in ourselves, and faith in what we wish, and faith in what we desire, and faith in the fact that this is a malleable universe, and that it can be changed, and that our choices and wishes and expression of essence does in fact change that. And so one of the messages this morning was solitude. And so it's really helping us. There's energetics here to help us get quiet this weekend and really go inside and choose and explore and choose what we want for our future, individually and thereby nationally. And what that message was is that I am comfortable in my own skin, and that this is a time to be able to step back and really look at things and be able to make those choices. And I'm actually, before I read this piece that also came across my desk this morning, unlike usual, I ask the oils and they give us a message, but today, as I was preparing for this talk today, some very specific oils came in, and I am going to ask them to join us and let you feel the energetic of them. And the first oil that I'm going to invite to be with us today and transmit the energetics is valor. And valor is courage, but it's an honorable courage, much like the knights of old who really had to radically change their way of being. For before that, nobles did what they wanted, took what they wanted, treated people the way they wanted, until this code of ethics or oath that they created was developed, and then their choices of how to behave, we're really taking into consideration and caring for and protecting others. So valor is very much a way of courage, likened to the knights of old, but also in this instance, when we're going inside and we're really being truthful and we're really looking at the depths of us, that takes a great deal of courage. And, I've found that for so many years with clients, that their unconscious defense system is fearful for and on their behalf of them discovering those experiences or rediscovering those experiences and emotions that the defense system has protected them from for so long. So we are going to need that valor. We are going to need that valor in our society, with so much that is going to impinge upon our freedom. And we are going to have to take actions in one way or another, whether it is writing, speaking, protesting, boycotting. There are so many ways that this is going to occur in our communities, in our local government. And it isn't easy to stand up and say what you believe. I caught a little snippet of Field of Dreams last night. And the wife in that instance, there was a town meeting or a school board meeting, I'm not sure which it was, and they wanted to eliminate books because one small group and one woman in particular decided that it was smutty, that it was encouraging sex and whatever she thought. And Kevin Costner's wife stood up and she spoke out amidst hundreds of people, what her beliefs were very clearly, and countermanded some of the claims of this woman. And that's not easy. And even in our township meetings, in our county meetings, to be able to stand up, you may be the only one. Very quickly there will be others. It only takes one person speaking out that then others feel the company of that and will stand with you. And we will be seeing that in our country as a whole. And the next oil that came forward was, of course, freedom. And this is a beautiful blend. And if we don't feel that internal personal freedom and freedom in our lives, then it's very, very difficult to stand up and call out where our freedoms are being taken away or impinged on. The next oil that came out was into the future, that we are going to take this courage and this requirement of freedom into the future. And the next oil that came forward is faith, and to have that faith in ourselves, faith in our species, faith in this divine communal collective plan of evolution. And the next oil that was showing up was fulfill your destiny, because in that way we are fulfilling the destiny of an original design of exploring this distortion, this particular form of separation where one gender and one group in this pyramidal structure hold the power and access to resources, etc., which is the attempt now. This is very, very simple. Why we're reversing and going back to petroleum and gas and coal is because they can be owned. The markets can be manipulated. The pricing and the pricing of food and everything else that goes along with that. When we have renewable sources, we have ideas, we have innovations, then it's very difficult to own and to control through the many innovations that are coming forth daily through scientific sources. And that allows for collective freedom. So it's really simple. We were moving towards that sustainable farming, renewable energy, and all of the advances in health and daily life that were coming forth adjunct to those. And now the dark has come in and decided that it wants to take control again, felt like it was losing control, and so this is the last hurrah. And this is our opportunity to grow individually and to know thyself and own thyself and have your freedom and sovereignty, and thereby create a world where that is the case. And I'm just going to read this comes from Living the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, and it was very pertinent because there's a lot of people feeling fear right now. Fear of what will happen now that it appears that we as people no longer have control in our own country, but that a very few, and one person in particular, but it's actually people that are behind this one person. It always is a small group. And that's, am I going to lose my health care? Is my mother going to be thrown out of the nursing home? There's a lot to be afraid of. However, that does not allow for that inner exploration. So I thought it very interesting that this passage came across. It reads, you're being invited to say this to yourself. I lay all fear aside, and in confidence and complete faith, I turn to the one perfect divine presence, knowing that the light of truth shines upon my path, even as divine love guides me into the secret place of the Most High, where I dwell under the shadow of the Almighty. And this isn't necessarily about a religion. It's just, for me, that Almighty means the collective decision of this universe, the collective force of this universe. I know that there is nothing to be afraid of in the Divine's world. Fear cannot operate in me, nor can it go forth from me. At the very center of my being, there is complete confidence, complete faith. At the very center of my being, there is a consciousness of the protection of divine love, the guidance of divine wisdom, and the strength of divine power. And so I turn in thought to the whole world and know that my word is bringing light and life and a feeling of strength and confidence to everyone. I turn in thought to the leaders of the world everywhere, and I know that love and intelligent guidance is directing their thoughts and actions. And even though it may not appear to be so, that is the absolute underlying truth. And when you sit in that depth of truth, you are creating that reality. I turn in thought to all the nations of the earth and awaken in them the realization, awaken in them the realization that there is good enough to go around, that there is a divine government under which they all may be protected from the fear of each other. I turn in thought to the great creative imagination of the human race, and assure it that there is a feeling and a presence at the center of everything, waiting to make itself known. And I turn to the great divine, the knowing of all things, and that can do all things, and say, lead kindly, light, amid the encircling gloom. Lead thou me on. And So I invite you to just feel the amount and really the grandiosity of this project, and that you are here as part of it, a significant player, and with the freedom of choice to transmute your individual patterns, which are the microcosm of the macrocosm patterns that we see in countries, in nations, governments, in religions, and in our global way of functioning and living. But it is not what we're moving into the future. We have the choice. And the more sovereignty you have, the more freedom within you, the more power with which you are creating the world and life you choose. So I invite you now to really feel your body, because for the most part, excuse me, so many are wanting something or someone outside of them to assure them, to protect them, to make them safe, to be free. And this is the great maturing, the great growing up of humanity, where we come to the realization that we have the power to design our world. Excuse me. We have the ability to make the choices. For when we are immature or young and we do not have that power and control over our lives, it feels very scary. And we are collectively experiencing that right now. But when and as you come to feel and experience your internal world, your inner verse, as I refer to it, you can experience the freedom within. And as you transmute the human childhood patterns that allow for you to mature and become sovereign in your own being, in your own life, choosing through actions, words, dreams, wishes, how this world will be. We have so many beings cooperating with us, an entire universe of beings. And so feeling however you're feeling right now, whatever you're feeling, physically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, just allow those feelings. Invite them forth, that they may teach you, lead you. That is the lead thou on kindly light. It is your own internal direct line of communication to your soul, which as children we had to either completely turn off, or to such a degree that it was not constantly reminding us of how it could be, would be, should be, and experiencing simultaneously how radically contrary to that our actual life was. And as you transmute and transfigure these pieces, these patterns, that line of communication comes back. You are able to feel into, not have to figure out, but feel into the right choice in any given moment, the right choice for you. Not at the mercy of, not a victim of anything or anyone else. We have all of nature, all the flora, all the fauna, all the climate systems, habitats, weather systems. They are represented here as such, but in and of themselves they have their own galaxy, their own exploration or clusters of galaxies, as do you. And us coming together on this planet for a particular exploration or project can be experienced or likened to excuse me, a supercluster of galaxies coming together for a particular purpose. And as such, we are evolving the universe. And so I'm going to invite in and transmit this new origin concept of the universe. It appeared about 1.5 years ago, close to 2 years ago, and now it's really being experienced and felt here. In the dismantling and falling apart of all these old ways of being. This old structure, the pyramidal structure, which has nowhere else to go. It is unsustainable anymore. For the people, the masses, cannot be controlled in the ways of old. It is being attempted and it is being accomplished to a certain degree in many countries. But its time has come. In this great growing up of humanity, in this maturing, in this evolution of a species, it will fall away. Just as with that pyramidal structure, as the base gets wider and wider and wider, the pyramidal structure falls until we are all working, living, creating, becoming on an equal footing. Cooperating, collaborating, communicating, connecting, diverse and disparate cultures, nations. Coming together as one community, not the same. On the contrary, it is the diversity that allows for growth, innovation, imagination, discovery. Seen every single day in these joint efforts between and among different research groups, universities. In the attempt to bottle up and control and limit knowledge, cannot put the genie back in the bottle. It is our belief, it is our mistaken belief and misperceptions and the lies that we have believed about ourselves throughout time that makes it appear that knowledge and freedom can and will be controlled. But it is futile. Allow yourself to feel the futility of this old way, whether it's in your own individual life or our collective lives. But as in our individual lives, catalysts, provocations, discomfort, often needs be the cause for that change. This is not a reset, it is not a redesign, it is not a revamping of the old. This is entirely new way of the universe. An entirely different model, means, and form of exploring duality. For this is a dualistic universe and will continue to be. But at a much evolved level. Such that we are no longer exploring and contained by those low, base, primitive forms of exploring. no longer the threat of survival, existence. Be it through wars, mass shootings, starvation, poverty, all are evolving out of our world. As we each transmute and transfigure our own sense of safety, security, abundance, freedom. You may be feeling a lot of activity internally, physically, or energetically. I invite you to really allow for whatever experience is coming forth within you, without analyzing, naming, labeling, but instead simply sensating, simply feeling, simply experiencing your own very unique internal experience. For that great divine wisdom that is the truth within all things is within your body, your energy field, your unconscious, your beyond conscious. Allow for those parts of you to lead. Rather than the mind or the third eye, which may in fact be obsolete. As a way of exploring. Just allow, just feel, and allow has no intention, it has no goal, it has no focus. It has no work, no effort, no push. Yes, it does entail valor and faith, to allow what is not known or a way that may not be familiar but then we are all pioneers this project. For this has never been done in this way, in this form, to this degree, with this inclusion of this many representatives of the universe. For within you lie the many yous, existences, within which you are concurrently exploring. An entire galaxy of you. Allow your energy field, your soul self, and your body to lead you down and within you. For therein lies all of the information, the assistance, the abilities, the gifts, that you may need. The more you allow, the more you may experience a new way of being in, with, through, and as you. As you are allowing yourself to experience yourself in such a way, that which has negated, denied, limited, confined, restricted, arises and is loosened or cleansed even from your system. Just feel, just allow. These current catalysts to evolution reach deep within each one of us. Bringing forward that which in any way impedes our progress forward individually and thereby collectively. Just as this was a moment of choice for the founding fathers, for those that gathered to sign that Declaration of Independence, so too is this a choice point. For each and every individual who so decides. To grow and become a designer of the future. The world in which you choose to live. And as always, you are welcome to stay in this energy. It's very, very, very powerful today. More so than at other times because of this choice point. You may be experiencing a great deal inside your body, in your energy field, and you may not, no worries. You may simply be dozing off, which is absolutely perfect as well. For these energetics are penetrating places within you that have long been hidden and couched in perceived safety, by distancing from them. And as you declare your personal independence this weekend, it will enable those parts of you to be more united. In their very diversity. For all must be included and incorporated within. The angers, the fears, the sorrows, the hurts, the joys, the pleasures, the excitement, the elation, for that is the beauty of exploration through the human vessel. The extent and breadth and width of experience, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. Is exceptional here on this planet. So that ultimately that knowing and owning and sovereignty within you, as you, becomes the way of this world. And you may feel the integration and the consolidation of all the energetics that have been transmitted, and choose to return to a more physical experience of this reality. Or, as always, you are welcome to stay in the energies as long as your system calls for. For that drinking in and reunifying with parts of you that you don't normally do. And that allows for you as a human being and divine being to be united here on this planet in your daily life. For this is the Disney World of the universe, and you came to do this at this point in time. This is why in our energetic practices we go down and in, not up and out to somewhere else, some other outer mental form of you. But instead, here, in you, as you, human, changing, evolving this planet, this place. Someone's comment in the notes required that information. And if you are feeling anything in relation to the planet, our country, it is a catalyst for you to find your own personal experience of that dynamic, of that pattern, of that treatment in your own life. Please feel free. I offer a free 30 to 45 minute just kind of sharing and little mini sessions so that you can address or at least identify some of those pieces. So please reach out. Right now, more than ever, I'm offering times throughout almost every day where people can experience that quick shift that is their potential. So you can DM me. My information is on my page, website, Healer's Universe. Contact information is there. And we will be starting a creation class, a creation course rather, where you will actively be designing the new way of Earth in accord with what is the new way for you. So heads up, keep your eyes open. In the meantime, please come right below. I will put it in the comments, but I will put it in a separate post, the personal Declaration of Independence. I really invite you to take each piece and feel into how you may have experienced that from your parents, and in that process of transmutation or transformation, if you want to do it on a not so deep level, will actually allow you more freedom and more empowerment. And I'd love to hear your comments, so please reach out, comment on the post of the declaration, or DM me. I'll try to answer things, and certainly when we each share our experience, it so often allows for a very big shift for others. So I invite you to please comment on the page, my page, where it's going to be posted. Have a wonderful, enjoyable, safe holiday weekend. Enjoy the discovery of you and your declaration of independence and movement into freedom. As always, it is with the deepest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence here on the planet. Until next time, be well.